Welcome back to Metal Memo number 51. It's too gorgeous outside, so I decided to do this outside. So let's get right into it. The goal was over, now what? The race ended and then I got home. So I want to talk about something that doesn't get talked about enough, which is the post-marathon blues, or really post any big goal blues. Because for months, your life has a very clear direction. For me, it was London. Every day had a purpose. Your runs are mapped out. The gym had a reason. The food had a reason. Sleep had a reason. Recovery had a reason. Even when I was tired, injured, annoyed, hungry, or questioning every life decision that led me to voluntarily run as much as I did, at least the mission was clear. Get to London, run the race, break 3 hours. That was the focus. And then I did it. I did my goal. The thing I had been chasing for a very, very long time finally happened. And right after, I didn't feel lost. I actually felt really proud. I felt relieved. I felt grateful and also physically wrecked. Then I went to France for 5 days to actually meet my wife's mother for the very first time, which was amazing and hilarious timing because nothing says nice to finally meet you like limping around France with bummed marathon legs trying to act normal when every staircase kind of feels like an attack. So for that week, I was distracted. New place, family, food, walking around and trying not to look like I needed medical assistance every time I stood up. I didn't really have time to feel the emotional come down yet. And then I got home and that's when it hit me. Not in a dramatic way, more like, okay, well, now what? The funny thing is, I wasn't sitting there wishing I was back in the hardest part of training. I was quite grateful that it was over and I accomplished the goal. I didn't miss being stressed out about my knee. I didn't miss wondering if my IT band was going to ruin the race. I didn't miss overthinking every little pain, every little niggle. I definitely didn't miss being nervous before every major key run. But I did miss the direction. See, that was the part I didn't expect. When you're training for something specific, your day gets very simplified. You don't have to ask yourself a million questions. Should I run today? What should I lift? Should I go hard? Should I rest? Should I eat more? Should I go to bed earlier? The plan answers most of that for you, and honestly, there's a lot of comfort in that. There's comfort in knowing effort has a place to go. You put in the work and it points towards something. Training gives you your scoreboard. Run completed, miles logged, workout done, recovery checked, another week stacked, and then the race ends. Suddenly the scoreboard is gone. You still have your life, you still have training, and you still have things you care about, but the sharpness is gone. And that can feel quite weird. The strange part is that life after the race is technically more open. I can surf more, I can do more yoga, I could spend more time with my friends, I could go on longer walks with my wife, I can pray more, I can lift with a little bit more freedom. I can experiment with training again. So heat training I'm looking into right now, Stairmasters after run to build strong and dominant quads, building in the weak areas, all the stuff I didn't have as much space for during the marathon training block. And that all sounds great, and it is great. But when you've been locked into a strict plan for months, freedom doesn't always feel like freedom right away. So sometimes it feels like you're losing momentum. And that's the part I've been really sitting with recently, because the fear underneath this isn't really, I don't know what to do. It's more, without a goal, how do I know I'm still moving forward? And that's a little uncomfortable to admit, but it's true. The belief that got exposed was pretty simple. Without a goal, I don't know how to measure myself. And I don't think that's only a me thing. A lot of people feel this after a big race, a big project, a wedding, a career milestone, moving across the country, a body transformation, or whatever. You spend so much time building toward one goal that when it's over, you expect this big wave of peace. And sometimes you do. And for me, that was like 6 minutes. And then your brain goes, cool, now what are we going to obsess about next? And that's where I have to be careful, because I love goals. I love structure. I love having something to chase. I also don't want to need pressure in order to feel like my life has a purpose. And that's the difference. That's where this connects to a bigger part of my story. Not the same, not as aggressive, not as dark, but there was a familiar feeling of what do I do now? the old routine was gone, even though that old routine was really destructive and it was still familiar. There was a pattern to it. Then I walked away from it and I had to learn how to build a life without the thing that used to organize my days. So this is back when I was living a detrimental lifestyle. And that's what change does. It removes the thing you outgrew. And then it asks you to build something better in its place. And that middle space can feel very strange, which is where I'm sitting right now. Part of why I train the way I do is because I want to be living proof. For myself, yes, but also for my audience. I want people to see that you can walk away from a very destructive lifestyle and build something you never thought was possible. Not in like a fake motivational, inspirational way, but in like a real way. This took years and it was messy and I still have days where I feel lost, but look what can happen when you keep going in that kind of way. That's why London meant so much to me. It wasn't really just a race. It was another piece of evidence. Evidence that I can follow through, evidence that the person I used to be doesn't get the final say. Evidence that your life can become something completely different if you keep choosing the right thing long enough. You can't only measure growth by these big moments though, because most of life happens actually after the finish line. It happens when nobody is tracking your splits. It happens when there isn't a race on the calendar. It happens when you're back home making normal choices, trying to stay connected to who you are without needing some massive event to actually prove it. And that's the real test. So this next season is the rebuild, right? So physically, I want to get stronger. I want to build back in my weak areas. I want to keep running, but not with the same type of pressure right now. I want to experiment with training, heat training, Stairmaster, surfing, yoga, strength work, mobility, more variety. But mentally, the rebuild is a little different. It's learning how to explore without needing everything to feel perfectly structured, which is hard for me. I can turn literally anything into a program. Surfing, great. What's the progression model? Yoga, cool. What are the measurable outcomes? Friendship, how many sets and reps? You know, it's like I constantly am in this mentality of structure equals progress, progress equals growth. And that's great for training, but in the day in, day out. So when this event was over, now I'm lost. I have the post-race blues. I'm looking for the next race. I'm looking to dial it back in, right? But it's okay, because that's the point. Not everything needs to be like optimized. Some things are allowed to just be part of a good life. A lazy dinner with friends or a slow morning with my wife. Getting in the water because it feels good and praying because I just need to slow down. Training because I love it, not because I'm terrified of losing fitness. And that's the shift. I don't want to lose momentum, but I also don't want to confuse momentum with constantly chasing the next thing. So the post-goal rebuild. Number one, admit that the drop is real. You don't need to pretend that you feel amazing just because the goal went well. Sometimes the crash comes with the win. That doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It just means something that gave your life structure is now over. You name it, you just don't judge it. 2, keep a small scoreboard. You might not need another massive goal right away, but you probably do need to do a few things to measure. For me, that might be, am I actually getting stronger? Am I keeping a consistent run base? Am I surfing more and praying more and being more present with my wife and being more present with my friends and family? Am I spending the time without any calendar obligations? I could just go to bed when I want and I could wake up when I want. And that counts. Not every scoreboard has to be a finish line. Number 3, train hard, but actually leave the room. So I personally still need structure. I'm not becoming some just vibe guy and see what happens. That's just not me. That's not my brand. You know, that's not who I am internally. That's how my wife is. She just goes by feel and then comes back later. I need structure, but I also don't need every session to be as narrow-minded as a marathon prep. Some seasons are for performance, some seasons are for rebuilding, and some seasons are just for experimenting. So I'm trying to become more of a complete person, not just a specific athlete in this next block here. 4, let the play count. So this one is big for me. So surfing counts, yoga counts, laughing with my friends counts, and time with my wife counts. A walk doesn't need to turn into an activity. Fitness count, that how many walks or steps did I get this month? Not because everything needs to be productive, but because a good life can't only be built around output. You need things to bring back to yourself. And lastly, number 5, choose the person before the next goal. So the next race will come. The next target will come. I know myself. There will be another thing, and it will be monumental in my mind. But before I rush into the next goal, I want to get clear on who I'm becoming in this season. Not just an athlete, but as a husband, as a friend, as a coach, as someone who doesn't need chaos, pressure, or finish line to feel like he's still moving forward. So the lesson, well, post-marathon blues are real, but I don't think they're only about the marathon. I think they show you what the goal was ultimately giving you. So that was like the structure, the purpose, a way to measure progress, and a clear reason to make good choices. And when that all disappears, you have to build a new version of structure. Not as strict, not as narrow, but still very intentional. And that's where I am right now. So I'm rebuilding, I'm training, I'm going to surf more, I'm going to get stronger, spending time with my wife and friends, and trying to remember that momentum doesn't always need to look very intense. Sometimes it looks quieter and slower. Sometimes it looks like trusting yourself enough to not immediately chase the next finish line. That being said, I signed up for 2 more marathons, but that's next year, so we'll worry about that then. Part 2, tip of the week. Tip this week, build a small scoreboard. After a big goal ends, it's easy to go one of 2 ways. You either rush into the next thing because you're afraid of losing momentum, or you drift because the structure now disappeared. I don't think the answer is forcing another huge goal right away. I did 2 marathons this spring. I don't need to rush into another goal here. I think the answer is building really a smaller scoreboard, something simple, something that keeps you moving, something that gives your week direction without making your whole life feel like a giant training block. So 1, stop measuring the season by the last one, right? So a rebuild is not a race season. So don't judge it like one. If you're not in a marathon prep, your week doesn't need to look like a marathon prep. That sounds obvious, but I needed that reminder. The goal right now might not be to peak mileage or have perfect workouts. It might just be to get stronger and enjoy your time outside. Number 2, pick a few anchors. You don't need to track everything. Just pick a few anchors that keep you grounded. For me right now, that's training and prayer and connection with my friends. And that's really enough. That's the balance that I'm trying to find, and the rest of the week can go figure itself out. But the structure that I'm focused on is training, God, and community. 3, don't confuse panic with purpose. Sometimes the urge to sign up for the next thing is actually just ambition. Sometimes it's also anxiety. Sometimes it's just being uncomfortable with the space to breathe. Before you choose your next big goal, actually ask yourself, do I really want this? Or am I just afraid of what happens when I slow down? That question really matters, because not every open space needs to be filled immediately. And 4, let normal life be a part of the plan. This is probably the biggest one. Your relationships are not distractions, and your recovery is not laziness. Your hobbies do not need to become side quests with a spreadsheet. Sometimes the plan is to train, then go be that person. Spend time with your wife, go eat junk food with your friends, get in the water and smile more. Take a walk and let life feel a little less optimized for 1 minute. That doesn't mean you're losing your edge. It might be how you just keep it. So tonight's 5-minute action. Write down your small scoreboard for the next 7 days and keep it very simple. So one training anchor, 1 recovery anchor, 1 connection anchor, and 1 thing that feels like play. And that's it. Not your perfect week, your real week. And that's it for this Mettle Memo, number 51. Happy training.